friends, and welcome to this playthrough for the Masters Division in the Desert Open Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and let's go. Before we start here and doing our shot, if you look at the video description down below, then you will be able to see direct time links to the specific hole. So if you do search for an example, hole number 6, press on that time just before hole number 6 and you will get directly to that hole. So that is an easier way to search for the content that you do actually want. So we're going to start here with hole number 1, and we are going to have an opponent here that do play with a Quasar, and a Quasar could absolutely work, but have in mind while playing Master Division is that you in general need to play with Kingmaker or with Deadball. So we're going to see here now, we're going to make our shot. We're going to have an Apocalypse level 6 as a start, and we're going to use 3.5 bar of topspin. 3.5 bar topspin is a little bit too much, as if we choose 4, but we're going to change to 3.5. 3.5 and 1 bar to the side. And the reason we choose 1 bar to the side is that we are going to have a bounce that do push us a little bit to the left, then we need to counter for that. So we're going to go with 5, and then we're going to go with a little bit more, so we're going to go with 8.5 rings approximately around there and adjust for 11.9. And the thing here with tailwind and also having topspin here is that the bounce will be very flat and very hot in my opinion, which means that we are traveling a lot further than we actually wanted to. I know we are on the fairway and should be happy with that, but in the end we do not want to be that close. So we want to play with 2.5 bar of topspin instead. So we take away 1 bar of topspin and play the hole exactly as we did before. So 8.5 rings with a driver, 2.5 bar topspin combined with 1 bar side spin to the right. If you do have an Apocalypse level 6 that do have 240 yards. Of course you have to adjust that depending on the driver that you do have if you do not have the same type of distance. So okay, but we landed there, and now we're going to go for the green here, and now we're going to have a crosswind here that is going to be right to left. The thing that we need to have in mind here is when having crosswind is that we need to adjust either the landing position or we need to use side spin to counter for that. We're going to use 3.5 bar of backspin because we're not having tailwind, so you basically can put your ball guideline in the hole and adjust from there. As you can see on the ball guideline there, we did add a couple of squares to the right there, and then we adjust from that position. The reason we did that is again to adjust for the bounce that we're going to have, so we kind of counter against the push that we're going to have from the fairway. The shot becomes very well, except for when we do counter with the side spin and also changing our ball guide position, then we need to take away one of them, either use side spin or use ball guide position instead of using both or none. So we're going to go to hole number 2 now, and hole number 2 is going to be a tough hole, but you should play it very conservative, and we're going to play with a royal ball here, which gives us power 4. That gives us a little bit more room and a little bit more distance than with a Kingmaker. So we're going to adjust there on the platform, so you can see our ball guideline is on the right of the next fairway with 1 bar of topspin. And we're going to adjust this one for 8 rings. According to our ring guide that we are adjusting our Apocalypse level 6 8 rings, as we should do if we are in maximum distance. So we do get the side spin here combined with the 1 bar tailwind to push ourselves up there nicely, having a lot of room towards the rough on the right and the left, and also to the top. So that is also why we are using just 1 bar of topspin, because again, with the tailwind that we're going to have, even though we have a little bit more side wind than on the other division, but we do have some tailwind, and we need to have that in mind while using the topspin, that we actually don't have to use that much topspin, even though the ball guideline may fool you a little bit there, because when you stretch it out, it doesn't reach that far. But again, tailwind and the bounce with tailwind gives you a flatter bounce and also a bit more push, and you will gain more distance with that. So, and here our opponent's going with a kingmaker, and a kingmaker could absolutely be ball to play with. You can play it exactly the same way, and maybe if you do have a less upgraded driver, then you maybe need to add one bar topspin, or you need to add a little bit of overpower, but in general it's going to be fine. So, okay, we are going to play this one with max side spin from this position, and we do want to go with a decent amount of backspin. The thing that we do forget here is that we do have crosswind. We do not have that much tailwind, which means that the ball will not be pushed that far, but we will be pushed to the left. So we have to over adjust and counter for the push to the left, but we cannot use that much topspin that we actually are using. We should set this shot up as we would be having our standard adjustment with a ball guide line that reaches to the cup of the pin, and then we're going to take 2 squares to the right to counter for the push that we're going to get to the left. Then we're going to adjust this according to our sniper. So if we do have 10.4 as our opponent have, then we go with 10.4 rings. That is also very, very important. If you do for some reason go short on that first piece of fairway, then you will be having a little bit of a tougher time to reach over there, the rough and the bunker, and especially you're going to have a tougher time to go towards the pin. It's absolutely possible, but you know, in general, when it comes to this hole, choose a ball with more distance, so you do not have to overpower and feel that you have to struggle with your adjustment for your second shot. So our opponent here had to rush it just a little bit. Hits it perfect though, and it should be bouncing over here. But as you can see, with that backspin, trying to bounce over the bunker is going to lose a little bit of distance, and then you can actually put yourself in the bunker, and that is not something that you do want. So hole number 3, my friends, and now we're going to go and play a par 3, the first par 3, which I really like. We're going to play it with a kingmaker due to the side spin. If you do have a wind resistant ball with wind resistant 5, then I would suggest that you actually use that, a bandera ball or something like that. So we're going to have 5 bars of backspin and as much side spin to the left as possible. We do have 11 in wind, and we're going to adjust for 11 rings with our sniper. We do want to have our standard ball guide to be just on top of the fringe and adjust from that position. We are going to use 1 ball of curl. As you can see here, 1 ball outside the ring of curl to the left, and we're going to get pushed in here, and we're going to get up there, and we're going to roll back down. Very close, and hopefully this will drop in the opening or in the weekend. So, and our opponent here is going to go with the Guardian. In my opinion, the Guardian is not going to be the right club. I know you can use some curl with the Guardian level 8 as well, and you do have a lot more backspin. But in general, you do not need more backspin than the ones that we do have on our sniper, and therefore sniper is so much more forgiving when it comes to the accuracy and also to the ball guideline, that actually have an easier time to adjust for a sniper shot than a Guardian shot. Our opponent is going to of course go for it. Again, it's possible to play with a Guardian, but I wouldn't suggest it. So bounce up there, coming in here, coming a little bit too much curl, but still close to the pin for making a birdie. So we're going to go to hole number 4, and hole number 4 is I would say is a hole where we have had some problems on the other division, but I do have found myself a very consistent way to play it now in Master, and it's of course require that you are kind of spot on with your overpower, but that is something that you should be able to handle. The thing, as you can see here, our opponent is using basically the same type of approach. 11 in wind, then he's using the yellow ring as a and the end of the rough, like in the beginning of the bunker on the left, as a reference point to make like the adjustment from there. Not that much ring counting, but using a reference point on this specific hole is kind of a little bit easier instead of adjusting for the rings. So we're going to go with the dead ball here to give us some room with the distance, like a little bit more distance than a kingmaker. We're going to go with 3 bars of side spin. I'm going to go with 5 bars of top spin. Side spin to the right and 5 bars of top spin. And then you maybe wonder, okay, again, why are you not using more? Why are you not using more top spin? And that is because we're going to come in with a high speed and we just want to clear the rough. We do not want our ball to roll on the other fairway. Now we came unnecessarily close, so we need to adjust that adjustment position with our yellow ring to be a little bit more up in the rough instead of in the bunker for our drive. But as you can see there, I used that as a reference point and worked from there. And that is the way I'm going to play this hole, to kind of feel that I'm having a good way to get over with our drive. Because now we do come in a situation where we absolutely have a shot for the pin. This is a shot that we, in some cases, will be close, and in some cases, of course, we will be a little bit more way off. But in the end, we're going to have no problem to hit the rough and at least bounce to the green. And we are going to do one little tiny mistake with our adjustment when we are coming in with our shot, and I'm going to tell you why after the shot has been made. So our opponent there using the sniper, and as you can see, went a little bit short, and that has been kind of the consistent way to see for people to play this hole, that we have been coming a little bit short, and we're going to come a little bit short, and I actually know why. So we're going to take that as well. We're going to go with 2 bars of side spin. We're going to go with 2 bars of backspin. You can actually use 1 bar of backspin if you want to as well. It doesn't really matter if you're using 1 or 2. But don't use more than 2. Use the ball guideline here to get just a little bit left of the cup. We're going to adjust our guardian with 9.5 rings. So a little tiny over adjustment here for our shot. The thing that we did there, as you can see, we did come down in the bunker just a little bit with our adjustment, which means that we need to add a little bit of distance on our club. So we need to just tiny add kind of a half a ring like upwards to kind of counter for when we drop down in the bunker and lose a little bit of distance. That is the key there, but as you can see, we went a little bit short, but still we secured a safe birdie. So my friends, this was hole number 4 in Master, and we're going to go to hole number 5. And hole number 5 is going to be a par 3. And after I have been looking around, playing, practicing myself a little bit, I think we have found an adjustment that should be good for us in a very consistent way. I know I've been curling this one around from the right to the left, but now we are usually be in between clubs and need to use the rocket. So now we're going to go for the rough bump. We're going to go with 2.5 bar of top spin combined with 5 side spin to the left if we are having a kingmaker. And this the top spin do change a little bit if you are having like a more wind resistant ball. We're going to want the end of us there to the end of the ball guide to just cut the rough. And as you will be able to see, we're going to adjust this one for approximately 12.5 rings. So we over adjusted this one just to counter for the bounce that we're going to get from the fairway here. But as you will be able to see, we get a bounce here and we roll in the rough, and we definitely do a good shot towards the pin. So we need to change our ball guide position just a little bit, so we come in a little bit higher up than pin, so we can actually let the ball fall down. But otherwise, I can take it just a little bit quick again. We used 2.5 bar of topspin. We did use 5 side spin to the left. And we had our ball guide line second bounce to just cut the edge of the rough by the green. And don't be afraid about doing so, because your ball will lose distance while adjusting for it, as the headwind will give you a more like higher bounce, and you will lose some distance between the first and the second bounce. And you adjust, we had 11.2, 11.3, we adjusted for 12.5, so 12.5 rings when we had 11.3. So we basically added somewhere in between 1 and 1.5 rings. So we're going to go to hole number 6 now, and this is the second par 5, and this, I believe this is the hardest drive combined with hole number 9 that we actually do need to play. And the reason for that is that we do have a very, very tiny fairway to be needed to hit. We can't put ourselves in the rough or in the bunker, because then we will not reach for the green in 2. So that is something that you need to have in mind. We do drag it up a little bit as we would be in overpower, so we can actually see the second bounce there. I'm going to adjust for 8 rings, and we're going to go just up to max distance again, because we do not want to drag down a little bit and be short. Now we do add some overpower, and I would say, like, after the result of this shot, it's not necessary. So we can take away that overpower, so we actually get the second bounce just by the rough instead of in the rough. You can bounce it directly over there and still be nicely on that last piece of fairway. The risk that you take, though, is that you go a little bit too far and roll into the rough. But in the end, with the rough iron that we do have, we should be able to get to the green in 2 anyway. But the thing that we do want is that we do want to have an open shot towards the pin, and we do want to at least give ourselves a good try to make an albatross from distance. It is absolutely possible with the wind that it's decided. Then it's definitely possible to make an albatross on this specific hole. Our opponent is going to go right, and I don't blame him for doing so. It is possible to get an albatross from this position as well. It's just going to be a lot harder. So the drive may be easier, but the second shot is going to be harder, and I do value to have a more like a straight wind and go with a club that gives me and like a fairway position that gives me more open line towards the pin. So we do have the Guardian level 8, and the reason we're using the Guardian is that we do want to have a little bit more distance than the Sniper, so we do gain 7 yards by using the Guardian instead. Using some side spin to the left, because we do want to come in from left to right, because the green slopes down to the right. So we adjust our Guardian for 10 rings, and we are going to just make a regular shot. The thing that we had trouble with there, as we do not have the ball guide line as we do have on the Sniper, is that it's hard to see how far the ball will reach. So we kind of have to estimate that in our head, and now we went a little bit short, but we still were on the right line. We just had to be a little bit further up, or maybe adding 1 bar of topspin. But still, we're going to manage to make an easy eagle, and that is what counts in Master here, at least to secure the easy eagle, and then to just tweak those tiny micro adjustments to get closer and closer, and hopefully dropping an albatross when it comes to the weekend round. So our opponent here is going to use a big dog, and it's going to go on the right side. The big dog is, in my opinion, absolutely the best club to go with, because it gives you some distance. But in the end, it's going to be just to focus to get this ball to the green and go from there. But now it's going to cut the rough here, and it's going to be kind of a tough wedge, because this ball, like, while using the wedge, is going to go high up in the air, and that is the trouble. That could be the trouble with it, as you need to go with a very, very close line with the rough to be able to get close to the pin for an albatross. So Now we go to hole number 7. Now we're going to change club. We're going to go with a Thor's hammer level 7. And I would say a Thor's hammer level 5, 6, 7 would absolutely be perfect here. You do need to have some distance, so the rocket will not be good. We do want to go with almost max backspin, so everything except for one bar. We do want to adjust so our ball guide line is just there with the last bounce on the pin there. I would say that I want to stretch that out just a little bit more actually. So we go down into the rough, and that means that we lose a little bit of distance. We do go with 9 rings according to being in maximum distance with our club. So we hit it perfect. But again, as we do drop down in the bunker, we lose a little bit of distance. So as you can see, we did lose a little bit of distance, and we kind of over adjusted it just a little bit as well. So 8.5 rings maybe, or like 8.7 rings, something like that, and then adjusting a little bit further up on the fairway platform, so we kind of counter for that when we're dropping down in into the bunker on the left side there. So it's a very, very tough shot, and I would say that I was kind of excited for this hole before the tournament start, but with not finding any consistent way to get that bounce, like not from the rough or from the fairway platform there, is going to absolutely in general be a birdie hole and be a little bit more focused when it comes to the other par 3s to try to get a drop for hole in one. But in the end, we secure a safe birdie, and that is what counts. And if we do get the bounce for it, then we're definitely going to be there, chase the hole in one. So we go to hole number 8 now, and now I'm going to show you a shot that that is possible to make, but you do need to have an Apocalypse level 5, or you need at least, or you need to have a Thor's hammer level 6, level 7. And if you're going to have the Thor's hammer level 6 or level 7, then you need to use a snow globe ball, and you need to have wind 17 and 17 plus miles per hour when it comes to a snow globe ball, or a turbo ball can go with as well. If you do have an Apocalypse like level 6, level 7, then you need to have like 16.5, 17 in wind. You should be able to cross the water anyway, because that is what we are going to try to do, because we can actually land this one on green if we are a little bit lucky, of course, and are well done with our adjustment. We're going to choose a snow globe ball here and give us a very, very good wind, 18.8, and we're going to go max topspin combined with 3 bars of side spin to the left. And we're going to stretch this one out to just see so we get the direction correct with it. And we have to do a little bit of guesswork when it comes to where we want to put our drive there. We're going to go with slight amount of curl against the wind. And we are not going to go max overpower, as we do have such a strong wind. So we take away, so we go like with 0.75 in overpower instead of going with max. I'd say max is 1 and 0.3 of a quarter, like 75% overpower. Oh my god. So we land that one on green, and that not on green, on the fringe though, but still it's going to be a very easy eagle for us. But if you do have less wind than 16, or like I would say less wind than 16.2, 16.3, I wouldn't try to go over, because if you just are slightly off, then you can risk going into the water. And that is also like the thing that you really need to have in mind, that you really do risk going into the water, but the reward for it, if you make your shot in a good way, is that you actually can make a very, very easy eagle on this one and bag that extra eagle that you want for the tiebreaker. So this, like, if having the -12 as a regular par score and we make one extra, that's -13, and making a -26 in the weekend round is going to definitely put you there on top. Hole number 9, and now we come to the last hole, and also I would say a key hole, because we need this eagle, especially when the wind direction is as it is. In the wind direction, as you will be able to see, we do have some headwind / side wind to the right, and we're going to go with a dead ball here combined with max top spin and max side spin on our Apocalypse level 6. do have 10.8 here, and we are going to just aim up our ball guideline for the second bounce to just be off the bunker there, so basically in max distance of our club. Now we're going to adjust 7.5 rings for 10.8 miles per hour, and we are going to go with just like a little bit outside the ring of when it comes to curl to the right, because this ball will be pushed way much to the right, so we need to have that in mind. We bounce it over there, we bounce it in the rough and roll out on the green. So as you can see, the key there, it's like even though we need to turn around in a good way when it comes to our ball, so we're not going into the rough on the left, don't over curl it. It's so easy to do that you think that, okay, I'm going max curl just to like make it a bit safer, but it's going to be way enough, especially with this type of wind, that you do not have to max curl. You can just use a tiny bit of curl to just straighten the ball out so you get it over to that platform. The thing that you need to really have in mind is that if you are having a club with a lot of topspin, like an Apocalypse level 6 or an Apocalypse level 7 or a Thorsheimer level 7, is that you can go very long as well. You can get that really perfect bounce that bounces you over the fairway, over the rough, and gets like this, and then you get into the rough, and then it's going to be, of course, very tricky for you to bag that eagle. We do want to have a Cataclysm level 5 here. That is because we do want to use as much distance as possible with our club. And basically, sure, we can drop this one for an Albatross, but we want to focus on getting the eagle in an easy way possible. So we're going to land up there in the rough, and we're going to use that as a landing position. We're going to adjust for we're going to adjust for 6 rings. And when it comes to 10.5 miles per hour, we are adjusting it as we would be in maximum distance of our club. Then we're going with a decent amount of curl, like 1 ball of curl to the left. We hit the rough, and we're going to bounce out there. I would actually stick my head forward and say, like, you could actually go with even more curl. If you want to go with even more aggressive line, then you can actually go with more curl, and then you can get it even closer towards the pin. But in the end, I would be very happy to make this shot and give ourselves that easy eagle. The thing to have in mind with this shot is that I'm not just using curl to land it on green easily. It's like I'm using curl to stay away from the trees, because the trees in the middle there are in play. So don't for a second believe that they will be kind against you if you're trying to go over them. So it's better to curl around them if you're not, like, in a desperate way have to play over it, because it's so much easier to curl around than try to just go over. So my friends, this was the playthrough with the correct tournament win for Master Division. If you do have any questions, please speak up in the comment section below, and I will be happy to answer you there. Again, there is direct time links in the video description, so click on that if you want to go to one specific hole. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and I want to wish you the best of luck in the Desert Open tournament.